Aloha and welcome to the Path of Me podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and I wanted to create a sacred space for soul to soul conversations with people sharing their light through their passion, power, and purpose. Thank you all so much for being here. Let me introduce my next amazing podcast guest. Hey everyone, welcome to the Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and I have Angie Hartzel here with me today. She is a connection specialist, animal communicator, and also a pet psychic medium. And I'm very excited to talk to her today. Welcome, Angie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I know that your work has been changing and evolving over the last few years, and it's kind of pacing, I think, your own evolution and soul growth. So maybe you
Mhm.
can talk to me a little bit about how you got started in your work, in your line of work.
Yeah. So of course it started with me, just me being me.
Yeah.
I'm going back to 2017, 2018. 20 my I need to give you a bit of my history for you to understand the amount of people pleasing that I had to release to get to where I'm at today. My husband has multiple autoimmune diseases and he is still very much dealing with his health on a daily basis. But in 2017 was the second time that we were facing him maybe not being on this earth because doctors just didn't know what to do with him. And they had pretty much told him they did have the conversation with us, "You need to just accept that you're going to go home, be in a wheelchair, and you're never coming out of that chair." And in 2017, it was like 11:30 at night. He used to work swing shift, so he worked all the time, but he was in a lot of pain. He used to work swing shift at a factory, and it was like 11:30 at night. I was all by myself, and I just walked over to my front door. I have no idea why. And I looked out it and I turned back to look at my living room and my kitchen. I had like an open concept in my old house. And I just looked across and I fell to my knees and I started sobbing and I said, "God, I don't know what I'm asking you for, but I'm asking you for hope, some type of hope. I don't know what." And I sat there and I like talked to myself in a circle. I was like, "I don't know what to ask for. I don't even know why I'm sitting here." Like I was just like talking through it. And then I fell in exhaustion and just laid on the tile inside my front door. And my kids were in bed, and, I just I I just needed something as a pick me up to give me hope because we had been living in hope for so long, and then finally it just came crashing down. He gave up long before me, and then when I finally gave up, I thought if I give up, I'm going to lose him. And I just decided that the only last thing that I had to do was to reach outside of myself. So it was only about 2 weeks later, a very long story short, I got wrapped up with a holistic gut health, community and supplement company that helped me. It was literally when I look back now, it was the ability through gut health to get me out of my head and into my heart. At the time, I was saying like, "Oh, I'm improving my gut health, my anxiety is going away." I had lifelong anxiety, I had lifelong depression from being a child and going into adulthood. Depression came very easily for me because I didn't ever fit in. I was always too much, too loud, too vibrant, too explanatory,
Do
too
everything.
yeah, like, it was just way too much. I was way too much, but one of the things my husband loved about me was my vibrancy and I didn't plan anything. He loved the spontaneity in me and, like, come on, like, he'd come home from work and I'd be like, "The bags are packed, we're going on an overnight trip." He's like, "Let's go." Like, he loved that. But truth be told, in 2011, when he was first diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, which is one of his diseases, our life was never the same from that point. And my energy was gone and his energy was gone. We were in total survival mode, total
For years? Was it years?
for many years. When I look back, we got married in 2003. We had a what I call a life without interruption, really only 3 years because we got married in 2003 and went through infertility for 6 years. And then it wasn't like it was only, like a couple of the years at the later stage where I kinda just gave up on all of it before I officially gave up, and I felt like we kinda got us back again, and then his Lyme disease came in. And we adopted our children in 2008, so, like, there was a lot that
A
happened that
lot
was
of
happy.
change in a short period of time.
It really was, but if now that I know what I know, chronic stress, bleeding into disease, all of that, I look back and we both lost our jobs in 2008, so it was like he was fighting for we were trying to go through infertility, and he was fighting for keeping money coming in, like, 2008, 2009, and then he got chronic illness in 2011, and I think it was from all the job stuff in 2008, like, I think it all really manifested that way. So,
What's your
long story
perspective
short.
on all of that now that you've gotten to the other
Hmm,
side? Like, what
I think,
how you relate to it changed now that you're
um,
on the other side of that?
I really see it as getting caught up in what we think we need to be doing to solve the problem immediately instead of, like, really looking at ourselves and looking at root causes, because if you go back to 2008,
Right.
I had everyone around me who was family, friends, whatever,
Yeah.
literally, like, telling me exactly what I needed to do because I lost my job. My husband lost his job, I lost my job. We were on the adoption list for 2 days when we got our kids. They came to our house on a Monday, we had jobs. They called us with kids on Thursday, we had no jobs and no hope of jobs, and we were literally getting twins. Newborn
How old
twins.
were they when you got them?
Birth. Birth. They were
Oh my
born, and the
gosh,
next day.
Angie, that's
Yeah.
baptism by fire right there.
Yeah, so, like, the next day after getting the kids, like, I was holding them in the hospital and brought my daughter home. My son had to stay for an extra 2 days, but I brought my daughter home, and literally, like, I looked back at it and I'm like, "Wow, on Monday, everybody was here getting paperwork and everything finalized. We got an email on Tuesday that the paperwork was filed. By Thursday, we had no jobs."
That's interesting that you both lost jobs at the same time. What do you think that
Yes,
was about? Because it's, how synchronistic life is, right? It's all happening for us. It's hard to see when we're in that circumstance. What do you think
yeah.
that was about? I'm just curious.
Well, truth be told, when I lost my job, I it didn't make sense. They called me in. I was, like, the highest paid female, manager for I worked for a customer service company for Kraft Foods,
Mhm.
and, they called me in and they were like, "Oh, you used your email once for personal to email your mom or something," and I'm like, "What?" So, anyway, it didn't make any sense, and then I walk out to the parking lot and there's 8 other people getting in their car with boxes.
Hmm.
So, it was the
That was
2000 and
definitely a RIF, a reduction forces kind of blanket thing.
yeah, and it was the 2008 crash where they were just letting people go who made too much money because they were trying to stay afloat and all of
Right.
that. So anyway, so I called my husband and I'm like, "I think I lost my job," because it just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So I was first, and then, like, he called me, I don't even know, day and a half later or something, and he's like, "I lost my job." And I'm like, "Okay." So, truth be told, I wanted to leave my job, but I was staying for the finances. Because we do that, right? It's easier to just stay and make sure your bills are paid and not have the worry of not paying bills? But I lost my job and then he lost his job and
And
then we
then a
got 2
double
kids,
whammy
so
of getting twins, and you've never been
yes.
you haven't had that 9-month gestation period to prepare mentally, or it's just like, wow, life is just coming at you. So how did that go? And ultimately, how did you guys get employment and work out the childcare? And
So
yeah, that's
yeah,
a
so long story short, there was a program at the time, it doesn't exist anymore in our county anyway, where you could foster to adopt. So when you foster, you get a paycheck, like a partial paycheck. That's what kinda helped me out with me losing my job, but we knew we wanted me to stay home. That was the plan.
Mm.
And then he was building stores overnight, like just going with a construction crew and building stores overnight in a mall where they would rip down one store and put up another. He was taking like all these cash quick jobs. And then all of a sudden, this job that I think it was one of the guys on the construction crew like told him about, he applied for it and they called him. And then he literally like didn't sleep from the construction job, went and had his interview at this place, and he was there for 12 years.
Oh, well, so
So,
you had a lot of consistency there, which is great
yeah,
for you,
he just
stability.
lost that job during COVID, like 2020.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
I don't know, sometimes I think the pivots come because they're necessary, and like you were saying, we're not willing to make the call, so the universe kinda makes it for us, you know, or your guides or your team or whatever you wanna call it, God, whatever
yeah,
people wanna call it. There's this master design and plan. They're like, "Oh, you
yeah.
need to kinda shift and pivot and be here." Which brings me to my next question is how did you end up tapping into, the knowing that you can communicate with animals and you're more
So
connected?
going back to 20 end of 2017, going into early 2018, when I started to clear my mind of the anxiety through the supplements that I was taking,
Mhm.
I started to realize that I wanted quiet time because before it was like rush, 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 hurry, 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 like live in this stress ball. In fact, my husband even called me the Tasmanian devil because I would just come in the house and spin all around in anxiety and then crash at bedtime. Like there was no real sitting on the couch to watch TV, I'd get up like 3, 4 times during a half-hour show just to get up and just to keep moving. So, there was definitely an unsettledness about me, and when I finally was able to calm my mind, which I now do easily with meditation and just stillness,
Sure.
when I finally was able to do that, I found out that I'm very quickly able to connect to what I want, and it's not that I can manifest, like, this beautiful, vibrant life all at once, but I'm very good at bringing in messages that are very detailed, and I can kind of see exactly what I need to do, and once I started to find that and tap into that, and let me just backtrack for a minute. In the wellness company for 3 years, there was this woman who kept saying, "Angie, you need to meditate. Angie, you need to meditate. Angie, you need to meditate." And I kept saying, "I can't. My mind is too busy." She's like, "That's why you need to meditate."
Exactly,
So, I
right.
was like, I'm not."
How did you get
And
started?
there was a frustration cloud that was over both my husband and I. It it lasted for a while, and I think it was, like, he knew he wanted to leave his job, but because it was not doing good for his body, like, he was standing on concrete all day or driving a forklift, and it just wasn't serving him anymore, and I think the frustration of him wanting to leave that job. I had a cleaning business, and I kinda wanted to pivot into hiring people, but I didn't know if I could type thing. There was all this stuff, and one day I'm like, "I'm just gonna lay on the bed and put on what they call meditation music." Never in my life touched meditation music. Went to YouTube, typed it in. I just laid on the bed, and I was like, all this stuff is in my head. I mean, it's just flowing in and flowing out, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, I actually feel a little bit calmer. So then I reached out to the woman in the wellness company. I was like, "Listen, I think I just tried to meditate. I think it kinda worked." So then she sent me a bunch of guided meditations.
That's so
And I
helpful.
s
That's a good
Yeah.
thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I listened to the guided meditations, and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love how I feel." I I literally
Imagine
I
that.
lit well, I think I was against it so long because I was worried. People say they're afraid to, like, communicate with themselves. I wasn't worried about that. I was worried that I would fall asleep and be tired, and the truth is that is what happened a lot because
Mm.
I think my body just needed to
I think you
decompress,
had
like,
been on such adrenal overdrive.
it
The
was,
moment it was given
right?
the opportunity, it was like, "Oh my gosh, we can rest. We need to rest," you know?
Yes, and then when I started hearing my intuition, when I started getting messages and things, it would always have something like, "Just take a nap today." And I would be like, "What? Take a nap?" And they would be like, "Just do it." So, I spent years this is going to sound p people listening are gonna be like, "What the heck?" I spent years taking, like, 2 to 3 naps a day
Wow, you had to catch
because
up. You had to catch up.
because my body was pushing itself. I had an accident in 2002, broke my whole body, had to learn to walk again. That was a big
Gosh.
trauma moment for me,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna tell you something. There was a message that came out of that I didn't wanna pay attention to at the time, but I heard it. But I kinda carried it with me until, like, 2018 from
Wow.
2002, and
Wow.
it said, "Don't be a workaholic," but I came from 2 entrepreneur parents where my dad had a business and my mom ran the office for it, who worked 7 days a week. You were not allowed to have free time. We went on a couple camping vacations, but, like, there was no
I mean,
rest
the
in that house.
programming is deep and pervasive, isn't it? Because we repeat what we know and
Yeah,
we embody those values. We embody
yeah.
the values that are projected on us or we're conditioned by our environment, right? So
I
maybe
was very conditioned.
your experience is similar to mine in a little bit way that your worthiness is determined by your productivity and that's how your value where your value
100%.
comes, right? So you're just merciless and pushing yourself until this happens and then you have a pivot, right? So what was the revelation for you?
So, when I had that message in 2002 that I shouldn't be a workaholic, when I had that accident, I was doing the jobs of 2 supervisor managers. I was doing my own plus someone who was out. And when I laid in that recliner and I had my arm in a cast and my whole body was on a backboard, I literally just laid
Wow.
there and I was like, I am never, ever working my life away. I looked back at, like, these little things like weddings and parties and, all of these things that I missed, and the smallest little thing, like my friend's little kid's birthday party, like, just little things, and I'm just like, these things were little, but they're not, and I
Life, right? You're
decided.
missing life, the actual
Yeah,
living of life for the job and the paycheck, right?
yeah. And when 2018 came and I started to find my quietness and it started to speak to me, the answer always came in the word of not doing too much or not thinking I need to keep doing X, Y, and Z, or I need to rest more, or don't
Did
take
you honor
action,
it
think
or
on
was
it.
it difficult to accept the message? I mean, it was so consistent, but then we also have to choose to follow it, right? So and there's this push-pull.
I honored it so much that this is how my life went. I would clean houses by myself. Everything is about shifting the environment, right?
Mhm.
So I would clean houses by myself and I used to listen to music. What I started doing was the entire 3 to 4 hours I was in a home by myself, I would listen to a podcast, positive podcasts that would give me insight and, drive and action steps to move more towards the life that I wanted. In fact, the first podcast I listened to it was called The Purpose Show, funny enough. And I remember her saying she was walking at the bottom of her driveway, didn't know how to feed her family, and then, like, this one thing that she created, like, 3 weeks ago went viral, and she woke up the next morning and she never had to worry about feeding her family again, like, just little things like that. So I'm cleaning houses and I'm listening to these podcasts. Then when I got home, the stress still to this day is so up and down in my home with my husband because he's figuring himself out and I had to learn to protect my energy, which is a separate conversation. But how my days were was I would walk in the door, we'd have dinner and everything, and then as soon as he would turn on the TV or continue to watch TV, I would leave and I would go upstairs and I would lay in bed and I would meditate. I wanted to do that for myself because just cleaning houses all day and physically doing that, putting the energetic, the spiritual energetics into myself all day, driving, going to the store, making dinner, whatever, I was depleted because I didn't know that I was absorbing everything from energy and people at the
Well,
store,
you're
and I didn't
also
know
in
all of that.
people's environments. So you're in different environments
Yeah,
doing work
so
and
true.
that energy is
Mhm.
impacting you. A lot of empathic people before the awakening, right? Before they're really conscious of it. are organically absorbing the emotions of everybody around them and humanity in general when you're out in public at the grocery store. You're absorbing that soup of everyone's energy in the grocery store or at the mall or, which is why empaths, I think, like to be alone sometimes because it's too much to be it's so peoply out there,
It
But,
is, and I teach women now, like, they don't realize what they're carrying, let alone what they're allowing to attach to them along the way, so it's not only about, like, who they are and what they see and what they feel in their life. There's already things that exist on. So I call it the pile on, like you're carrying this stress of multiple lifetimes, family here, your own stuff, your trauma, like all of this. And then you go to the grocery store and it's like, you know what
yeah.
I mean?
I mean, so many people, it's so interesting that nobody is, in general, energetic protection and integrity is not on the top of mind for most people. They're just bubbling along, but it's so critical to determine what's yours and what's not yours. So how did you transition into this work?
So this is where things started to shift for me. As 2020 came and people saw it as the world shutting down and things like that, we were all being awakened in many ways, right? There was awareness happening that we never had before because we have time to think now and we don't have to be in the car and be in. And what happened for me was I knew that I had to shut down my cleaning business. I knew that I should be working with animals. However, I was keeping the cleaning business until COVID truly hit because when COVID hit, nobody wanted me in their house and
Right.
nobody wanted me around their elderly parents.
Right,
So
right.
I had commercial clients and residential, and the residential were like, "You're not coming in to clean my mom's house," So
Yeah,
I was like, "Okay." And being very spiritually connected, I was like, "Okay, this is my exit." So I'm going to tell you how I started my business, and it's going to blow everybody's mind if they're not familiar, but I woke up one morning, I had no plans whatsoever to open anything with animals. I had been thinking about it, but I didn't try talking about it. I nothing. I woke up one day, I got out of the shower, I put on the comfiest clothes you could ever imagine. I went downstairs where my husband's laptop was because I didn't have one at the time, it was broken. Went down to my husband's laptop and I went on to the state website and I opened an LLC called Pet Services by Angie. And I was like, "Okay, now what do I do with this?" And my husband came home and he's like, this was hours later, he's like, "Oh, how was today?" or whatever, and I go, "Well, I opened a pet LLC." He's like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I really feel bad for anxiety-filled dogs that can't be in a kennel. They can't go to a kennel to stay when people go on vacation. I'm gonna board some anxiety-filled dogs here, and I'm gonna do some pet sitting." So, I started to get into it that way. Now, I have 5 dogs. We didn't have 5 in 2020, I think we had 3, but we have 5 now. My
Wow.
daughter we only have 5 because my daughter's
We
like,
only
"Mom, I
have
saved."
5.
I know. My daughter's like, "Mom, I saved all my money for a year, and I really want an Australian Shepherd," because she had a horse at the time who has since passed, but she's like, "I really want an Australian Shepherd," so then we got the 5th dog. But anyway, so, I love my dogs, and I was like, "I just wanna get out there and help these anxiety-filled pets," because when I was with the wellness company years back, I was a speaker, I did podcasts and everything for women with anxiety and depression because that's my path,
Right, right.
and what I noticed, like, day 2 of watching other people's animals is dogs with anxiety have owners with anxiety.
Right.
So, as the person's coming home from their vacation and asking me how it went with their pet, I'm sending them meditations and step by steps for daily rituals that they could calm themselves down. Because literally, as I'm working with the pet and just watching it, I can tell by its mannerisms and how it responds to me and my energy. I can walk up to almost every dog and it's not threatened by me. My energy is very centered for them and very calm and inviting. But I could tell when dogs are in chaos and I can tell when dogs are in stress. So, long story short, it was pet sitting that opened my eyes. Well, then I'd ask if I could have a come and have a sit down with the parents, the pet parents. So then I'd go over to their house free of charge. I would just go over to their house and be like, "This is what I see in your dog and this is what I see in your environment." And if you just make these very, very small tweaks, you can be calmer and they can be calmer. And they're like, "Oh, really?" So I started to really educate pet parents. Well, then as I went along my journey, I realized that there are many things I'm not okay with in the animal world that I got to see firsthand. And I thought if I can get in front of the screaming, the yelling, the shutting the dog out, the misunderstanding of the dog that's so loud and reactive because the parent doesn't even see the dog. You know what I mean? If I can get ahead of this and educate the pet parents, then I'd be in a better place. So my business went from pet sitting and boarding to pet parent education and dog training. I became certified in dog body language and communication because that's the only place I want to be certified. I am not an obedience dog trainer.
Right.
I don't want your dog to be obedient to me. I want your dog to connect with you and you to connect with your dog to get into a better environment all around. And I want you to see cues. I pride myself on only training dogs once because I teach the owner exactly what to look for. And we try and get ahead of the behavior, right? So then I was a dog trainer. And then as I was training dogs, animals started to speak to me. And I think that I already had the
Yep.
clairsentience feeling of knowing what to do because here's another thing I never noticed about myself. For as long as I can remember, even a teenager, I would speak to people and I would say something to them and they would call me, see me next time because we didn't have cell phones when I was that young and be like, you told me to go home and do this and I did this and it was amazing. I feel amazing. So, going through my life, I always ran into people and I would give them exactly what they needed
Right at the
without
time, right? Without even knowing.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like, and a PTA meeting comes to mind at my kid's school. Like, I was just talking with this mom and I just grabbed her wrists, like, really gently, and I was like, "Listen," this was way before I even meditated and everything. I was like, "Listen, I think all you need to do is just go home and get everybody to bed and sit and curl up with a blanket and your cup of tea and just, like, look out your window." I remember getting in the car going, "Why did I tell her that? I don't do that. Why do I tell her that?" But here, for years, I knew this, right? So when I started to work with dogs and I was pet sitting the dogs, I knew what they needed and I was able to be there for them in that capacity. Then I decided I was going to tell the parents how to see what they needed. Then I decided that once they started connecting with me, I was going to put it out there a little bit more that I could connect with animals. And the first time that it happened, I was working with a dog that I knew it. Energetically, I knew the owner did not want this dog, but there was something that wasn't being said.
Oh,
And I knew I never heard the full story of the adoption from the rescue,
oh.
but I knew that this was not where this dog should be. I couldn't shake the feeling that this dog should not be with this person. That's all I could tell you.
And the dog knew
And
it, obviously.
yeah, the dog knew, right? So anyway, I get there for the second training. I'm there for a second training because the first one was very quick because it had to end quickly for an emergency. So I went back and I'm there and he's walking around the kitchen and he's following her. And she's like walking into 3 different rooms while I'm trying to help her and she's just not settled. And all of a sudden he goes, "I just want to take a nap with her." And I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "He just spoke to me." I was like, "The doctor spoke to me." Truth be told, though, the session that got cut short, I already knew that. I knew that he wanted to relax with her more than anything. She wanted him to stay off her counters, and I knew in that moment that he wanted her to just sit down with him, right? So once he said that to me, I told her, and we decided that she never let this dog out of her kitchen. The dog lived in the kitchen, had a crate in the kitchen, wasn't allowed in the bedroom, wasn't allowed in the living room, nothing. She sent me a picture that she cleaned her entire living room of the kids' toys and everything. It was a bunch of kids' stuff. That's why she didn't want him in the living room. Because he did have accidents in the house still, which was later on I found out was separation anxiety when she was still there. It was
I was
room
gonna
to
say
room
stress
separation
related.
anxiety.
Stress.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, sent me a picture. She cleaned the whole living room, and the dog was laying down in a chair with her when she sent me the picture. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I still couldn't shake this feeling that this dog should not be here. Finally, she calls me about my son coming over to mow her grass. I told her that my son mowed grass. She calls me about that. She goes, "By the way, I got this dog because my son, who's in the military, is coming home in a year and he wanted this dog, but I can't handle him. I don't think I want to keep him." So I immediately went out onto Facebook and into the socials and I tried to find this dog a home. And do you know that after rehoming this dog to someone who is the best fit for him, he has 2 siblings, 2 fur brothers who he has a big backyard.
There's a
Do you
happy
know that I
ending.
just
It's a happy
no,
ending.
no, no, seriously. He was so unsettled about not being able to connect with her, and she was so unsettled that she had resentment towards him because she didn't pick him. The son picked him. Then I found this
That's so
out. So
sad.
once I found that out, I'm like, "This is why she doesn't want this dog." So let me tell you how this ended. I had to sit down with her. "Let me help you rehome the dog." Okay, right? And Spirit has already shown me I'm going to own a rehoming center. It's not time yet, but it's happening. So I already know that. So I get this dog, I put it on Facebook, I put it out on the socials and everything, and I find it this most beautiful home. Yesterday, I'm on Facebook and I see this picture of this dog. His name was Bo. Bo not only attended their wedding and had a signature drink named after him, but
Yeah,
Bo was and
top
I'm covered in
shelf,
chills, but
top
Bo
shelf life.
yesterday was at this organic dog bakery for the first time, and she took his picture, his new mommy took his picture and posted it on Facebook and is like, "Bo's first time at this bakery." And
Yeah,
I am just so
living
fulfilled,
his best
and
life.
yeah. And the woman who owned Bo that was finally really honest with me and we made a plan. And see, that's the thing, pet parents. If something's not working and you've tried, I know that it's hard to accept that you might need outside help, but sometimes someone like me, and I can even do sessions over Zoom, can give you exactly what you're looking for. And sometimes it is rehoming because sometimes
Yeah,
that is the path that needs to be taken. And I don't like how, of course, I don't like that people dump their dogs and, I don't like that side of it, but there's a side of rehoming that's okay. Do it with a professional, do it with someone that can help you from their nervous system out and just get in front of someone who can help you? So, I will tell you this, so the woman who had Bo originally has recently readopted a dog that was a very special case dog. It was an older dog who was with a rescue employee in her home fostering for months. And this rescue employee would not give this dog to just anybody. But the woman who originally had Bo had said, "I wish I had a dog that I didn't have to walk outside like on a leash where it would rip me around," because Bo was very energetic. So she now has you're going to die.
a
The
Shih
name
Tzu
of
or
the new
something.
dog. Yes,
Is
a
it a
Shih
Shih
Tzu
Tzu?
mix. But listen to this. Are you ready for the dog's name? Boo. The dog's name is
She was
Boo.
so close. She was
It's
1 O off.
yes. It's small. She said, "Oh my gosh, Angie, I'm so happy."
Oh my
And I
god.
will tell you, I'm very close with the rescue that it came from, and the rescue worker got a hold of me and said, "Would this person be good for this dog?" And I said, "For this dog, yes," because she wanted the dog that wasn't too hard to handle. She wanted the dog that was going to cuddle with her and not cuddle with her and then be energetic, right? She just wanted a lazy dog, right?
How
And now
perfect.
that's what she's got.
How perfect that
Yeah.
it all worked out. But let's come back to you. So that was a
Yeah.
real revelation for you on what your
It
abilities are
was.
and where you're going. And what I see is this beautiful unfolding of how each iteration of you stepping into your gifts has led to the next iteration of how you can be in service.
It's so true. And I more recently embodied all of me, meaning that I put it out in the public that I am an animal communicator. That was
Was there
something
a
that I
hesitation before to really just be forward about that?
There wasn't a hesitation to put it in public, but there was a hesitation to trust it. I
Mm,
would get in my car after sessions and I would be like, "Oh my gosh." And then finally, it was the session of all sessions to date. I walked into a situation where they needed help with the dog behaviorally. I not only read the dog, but read both parents and pulled up a mom who had passed away for a son who needed to hear a message that he needs to just do something completely different in his life. And when I did that family session, when I got into that home and addressed that the dog had this issue and this is what you need to see in it. And then I spoke to the dog and the dog told me its sole purpose for this couple. And then the couple ended up sitting in front of me. I did a card reading with intuitive guidance. It was, it was, I got in my car and I sat there in total shock, first of all. And then I pulled into the grocery store parking lot about 10 minutes away and I cried. And I left a message for my good friend. And I was like, "You won't believe it." And I just laid out everything that I did. And she goes, "Angie, you're such an amazing channeler." And I was like, "I don't even know that I'm a channeler." She's like, "You're such an amazing channeler." And I had done a psychic fair the week before that also gave me new trust. And the messages that I received from these women that I helped, I'm calling in helping women and dogs. I really am because emotionally, they're actually extremely similar. And I really want to help women and dogs. It's not that I'm against helping men, it's that the energetic level in where I meet them is completely different most
mhm,
times, you
mhm,
know? And when I found out that I was not only an animal communicator, but also a psychic and could communicate at the psychic fair, I didn't only communicate with pets, I communicated with people. And I brought in 2 grandparents that had passed for messages for this one woman who had been dealing with really hard things in her life. I was just so fulfilled to be me. And it
do you
was
think that's what you've been working towards your whole life? And so that was the
embodying
moment,
me.
right? Where you could
It was.
be authentically yourself and offer your gifts and do what you're here to do and help
Yeah.
people heal with their animals, right? So
It's
how incredible that you experienced that recently, right?
Yeah, I did, and you probably saw the post. It was a little messy because 'cause I'm very wordy, so it was a lot of words, but I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am so excited right now." Like, I just kinda shared because I didn't only help the dog, I didn't only help the people, I helped a whole family, and when I left them, they were exhausted, the dog was napping, like, everybody was like,
Everyone
"What
was
just
wiped
happened?"
out from the energetics of
And
that experience.
I got the most beautiful message from them too. She's like, "Angie, we
Oh,
miss your energy." This was like a week later. She's like, "We miss your energy." She's like, "We love everything that you brought into our home that
oh,
day." And they even just reached out to me yesterday because
love
their
that.
dog had a little trigger and I'm going to read the dog after this call and give them what they need for the dog. So anyway,
Well, what have you
coming
learned
out
about
as
yourself? What have you learned about yourself through this experience?
oh,
All of this.
I'm telling you,
Who are
if
you
I could like
becoming? How are you? What are you learning about yourself through this? All of this.
I think if we look at the whole picture,
Yeah.
I was a people pleaser my whole life because I want to help people.
Right.
But I had to go through like the boundaries and not letting the wrong people in and being in front of only the right people to
Mm-hmm.
get to where I'm at today. I didn't get to where I'm at today by helping everybody.
Right.
I have turned down quite a few training clients. I've turned down a couple people who are like, "Oh, I'd love for you to read me." They're not ready for me to read them
Right.
because they are just too ego filled. I can spot an ego a mile away, which is why my husband and I really, when he gets in his moods, I can't because as an empath and as a person who's come through so much healing and so much awareness, like I just said the other day, I think I said this to you, Wendy. People say they're grateful for so many things in life. I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. But I'm telling you right now, I am the most grateful, aside from anything that I could physically say, for my awareness and my intuition because I can breathe as me now and I
That's
can
huge.
walk
Just
as
take
me
that
now.
in. Just take that
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Like, I had to have a very hard conversation with a family member the other day. Like, I had to have it because it was spiraling,
Mm.
and I felt that it was unaddressed, and I had to have it, and it didn't come out with either of us being truthfully, like, so happy that it happened, but I was fulfilled that it happened
Right.
because my truth needs to be heard. And a lot of people think that I'm really helpful, but they also don't know that I also don't put up with garbage anymore. Like, I won't let people fill my day with nonsense, and I won't let people come in and swirl and spiral me downward because that was my whole life.
Mm.
Like, I would people please, and then before you know it, something that I did in my people pleasing wasn't good enough, and then I would regret everything, and, like,
It's
I would just
exhausting.
oh my gosh,
Exhausting.
I would spiral.
I get it.
So one thing I completely forgot to mention is I had a huge depression from 2014 to 17, huge, and I was in a hole, and I saw myself living in the hole, and the whole world going on around me. And more recently, I had that vision again. I had that same vision, but I rose above all of it, even the people who were walking above the hole,
Yeah.
and I was just living way higher, and I had everything around me that really matters. Like, you're gonna laugh, but I had tea, I like hot tea, I like matcha, right? I had tea, I had matcha, I had dogs, I had my kids and my husband. I had my kids and my husband in lighter versions of themselves.
Right.
Like, everybody
In this vision that you're experiencing.
yeah. Yeah, because when I was in the hole, there was, like, a spiral like this, and I was, like, kind of climbing on, like, the bottom 2 pieces of spiral when I was in it years ago when I had that
Right.
vision.
Right.
And now I have the vision where, like, I look down at the hole, I look down at the people who are walking around, and I got the feeling when I had this vision that the people walking around haven't been able to lift their head yet.
Yeah, you kinda transcended through, you just kept kinda going, you passed them and kept going because you were raising your
Yeah,
frequency, doing your
yeah.
work, which is amazing, you know?
And it showed me just slightly higher than my husband and my kids, you know, because they're working on things. My kids are 17-year-old
Well,
twins.
you know, everybody's, following their own path and trajectory, everyone's coming into themselves in their own time, and I think it's important it's easy for those of us who are very connected because we see it, and we can acknowledge it
Mhm,
with more compassion. People who are in the ego have a harder time, um, because there's judgment and there's expectation and there's all these things that aren't being met and anger and just all those lower density emotions, right? So how beautiful that you were able to have that knowing that they're going to make it,
mhm.
they're coming along, and it allows you to be a little more patient when there's turbulence, which we all go through, right? Um, but I did want to speak to something about the empath because many empaths, Angie, haven't gotten the memo that we are not here to absorb everyone's garbage anymore. That's the role of the empath has changed. And many have not gotten the memo. Everyone is responsible for putting their own oxygen mask on. We are responsible for putting our oxygen mask on, for being the highest and best version of us and placing our hands gently on the backs of people around us and walking beside them, but not saving or rescuing them anymore or absorbing anything that's not our energy. So we have to be so mindful, right? What's mine? What's yours? And then give it back. Oh, especially people who are just early in that growth, right? Growth pattern with boundaries and self awareness and but check in, you know? And if it's not yours, you just energetically push it back or you intend that it goes return to sender and you move on. I just felt like that was really important to speak of since you have been talking about your empathic journey and your journey this whole
Yeah.
time, but many people listening might need to hear that or know that.
I think it's important to know that you when you start to awaken, part of that journey has to be your voice. You have to start getting comfortable saying no,
Mhm.
and you have to start getting comfortable saying what you really need to say when you're going through something. It doesn't have to be hurtful. For instance, I called a family meeting just 3 weeks ago or so, and I said, "Here's the deal, family. I am stepping more into my business than I ever have. They've always known me as mom who's home,
Mhm.
right? And I just had a part-time job that I took because I thought I had to. Spirit very quickly showed up and
Put the
said, "No, you're
kibosh
done
on it.
here. Yeah, you're done here," including a speeding ticket
Oh,
in the car I was driving, yeah, for the company. But yeah, so I held a family meeting and I said, "Here's the deal. I will not put my energy into chasing you around this house asking you to get things done. You will contribute to laundry, you will contribute to dishes, or your cars don't leave the driveway." I have 17-year-old twins. They both well, they my son just left his job, but my both of them have jobs, you know? They have schedules to keep, but I cannot work on my business all day and then worry about doing every single thing, including tripping over shoes, all of these things. And the thing was there was a time when we were on board with this stuff, and then there was a time where we fell and we didn't really focus on it. And then there was a time where and I'm like, "You know what? There's a new rule. Like, this is how it's going to be, and if you don't help with these things, then" like, I told them, "Your shoes need to be put away. I don't need to trip over them. I walk in my front door, and about this far in is my son's shoes every day." Like, so I'm like, "Please,
how's it going?
please."
Did they hear you?
Well, they did hear me, and then this past week, because there's singing a lot this week after school and everything, nobody's really around, so I gave them the benefit of the doubt that we've all been gone, and I said, "This week coming, you need to make sure that you are staying on the ball." But the truth is I am energetically drained because you can call it whatever you want. It's called ADHD, ADD, whatever. But I exist on multiple planes and I'm always fighting to stay on one or the other and I'm very scattered. And it takes a lot of energy out of me to stay on task, to move from room to room to room, to clean like some other people have success doing. It takes so much out of me, and I get distracted very easily and, I have
Well, I
squirrel
mean, are they
moments and
going
things
to
like that.
I think it's good you had the boundary, so hopefully going forward, it'll
Yes, and
work
that's
out.
what I told them.
We're kinda
That's
winding
exactly
down
what I
on
told them.
time. This time went so quickly, Angie, but if you had something to offer people who are going through some of the challenges you've overcome, what would you say are 2 things people might that might help people move forward and people might be able to use as a tool or reflection going.
So, the biggest thing for me is awareness. You already know what's not working. You feel it. It's not that you see it so much, but you feel it. You're like, "Man, I'm exhausted after this," or "I feel like that just felt gross,"
Yeah,
whatever. So have the awareness and take action on the awareness. And then the second thing is, I don't care how busy your mind is, give yourself downtime. I saw one time on a TikTok or something, put your phone timer on for 5 minutes and lay on your bed with no expectations you know,
I
starting
like
like
that.
that.
I like that.
Yeah, and when I was in depression, I made a 7-minute rule up for myself because that's how long I realized it took me to unload the dishwasher and reload it. So I'm like, 7 minutes, you have to do something for 7 minutes. When I was in depression, I had a lot of tips and tricks, and I think that that's really important to have that stillness, because the stillness is where the answers are. You think they're out there, and you think because you saved a YouTube video or had a
Or
conversation or
went on a
whatever that that's
retreat,
the answer.
like, that's gonna
Yeah.
heal you. No,
No.
it was unplugging that healed you, although powerful things happen in retreats, but you have to do something sustainable, right, for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is it has to be action from you.
Yeah,
Like, you have to make that decision
right,
and do that thing that you already know it's going to serve you
right.
because you feel better after it.
Yeah.
It's like me. No, I can't meditate for 3 years. Guess what I needed? I needed to learn to meditate, and now I'm changing my entire not only my life, I'm making my husband question everything about his life because I'm like, "Stop doing what doesn't serve you. Your body is not holding up. it's time for a career change. You know what I mean? Like, it's just time. You need to and he also needs to heal his trauma and help his body, but we aren't gonna talk about that today. I'm just saying, like, there's things that you have to have awareness of, and the awareness is, like, the biggest, I call it the A word of power. You will get your inner knowing and your inner truth and your inner power back when you follow your awareness.
Yeah. I think curiosity is important too.
Absolutely.
You have to be curious about your triggers. You have to be curious about your patterns. And so thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure hearing about your
Absolutely.
journey. And how can people find you?
So I have a website, petparentconnection.com. I'm currently going to be showing up the most on YouTube. That's where I want to be. Social media is not my love, but I do show up there on Facebook.
You'll have to
But
send your YouTube link
yeah,
and I'll put it in the show
yeah.
notes. And
Parent Connection with Angie. I put my name on it so people can kind of associate, my
yeah,
name and
yeah.
yeah. So Pet Parent Connection with Angie is both my Facebook and my YouTube name, but
Great.
my website is petparentconnection.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Angie. It was lovely talking to you today.
Thank you.
And to my audience, thank you so much for joining us for this awesome conversation. Go out, love yourselves, be kind to yourselves. Subscribe to the channel if this content resonated with you. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.